On. Hello there, and welcome back to Good Sport Reviews. Today we have an interesting topic for you guys, actually. We're doing another tier list, but this time we're not talking about players currently at the club. We're not talking about Premier League teams. We're not talking about the England squad. We're talking about players linked with a move to Liverpool. Now, I've scoured the internet. I've gone back through the LFC transfer room chat to make sure you tune into them every day at 7:30 p.m. Bit of a plug there for you. And I've picked the 15 most talked about players in those videos, the players we've most been linked with, the players who are all over our news every single day, despite the fact that we're not in a transfer window. But before we get into that, if you are new around here, please make sure to like and subscribe. We're on 48 subscribers at the moment. We want to reach 100 by Christmas. That would be fantastic. So let's get into it. So I've ranked the tiers from perfect down to bad slash won't happen. So we've got perfect, good, maybe I can see why, not convinced, and just bad slash won't happen. This is not my thought on whether I think the player is a good player or a bad player. It's just whether I think the transfer would be necessary, whether I think it would benefit the club. We have to take into consideration the price tag, the player's ability, if it's a position we need strengthening in, and just overall the history of the player, i.e., injuries and record and stats. So we'll start off with Musiala. This one I'm going to put in maybe I can see why, because it depends on if Mo Salah leaves in the summer, which we're all sort of becoming numb to the fact that he will. It's more than likely that he's going to leave. It's going to be for something around 200 million. And that means we need to bring replacements in. Musiala is a central player, not a wide player. So you have to consider that if we bring him in, who's going to move to the right? Will it be Nunez? Will it be Gakpo? Will it be Ben Doak gets his chance to shine? Musiala coming in, I can maybe see why we do it, but it's going to cost a lot of money. He is on high wages at Bayern, and Man City are also interested in him, so the price is going to get hiked up. Do I think it's a good bit of business? Depending how much we sell Salah for and depending how much we want for him, I can maybe see why. But if Salah stays in the team, I just don't think it's somewhere we need to strengthen. Next up, we have Calvin Phillips. This one's just bad, won't happen. I do think there's a good player there, but he's only started twice for City in the 2 years he's been there in the league. Injury prone. He's going to be 28 in January. He's on wages of around £160,000 a week, I believe. And that's just not good. You know, there's cheaper alternatives out there, younger alternatives, and players who'd fit our system more than Calvin Phillips. Like I said, I do think there's a good player, but maybe for a team like or an Everton or a Crystal Palace or something like that. Just not for us personally. One player who would be, though, Andre, and he would be perfect. 30 to 35 million is the touted around price. He is in the Brazilian league, but their season has ended. From what we understand, this deal is going ahead. It's likely to get announced in sort of the first week of January if it is true, and Andre would be ideal. He's 22 years old. He likes to get forward a lot. He is not an out and out number six, but he's a bit of a box to box ball winner, which Klopp loves. We've seen that in the past with Henderson and Milner. Andre is full of energy. He does have a bit of a track record for getting yellow cards, which could be something he needs to knock out of his game very quickly in the Premier League, but he's still a great player. The only issue is Arsenal linked with him as well. And with Thomas Partey looking as though he might be leaving, you know, the price is probably going to go up. So expect to be paying around 50 million if that is true. Next up, we have Inacio from Sporting, and I'm going to put him in good. Um, of the two main centre backs that we are linked with, I just think Inacio is the weaker of the two. Don't get me wrong, his stats are good 1.55 tackles per game, 1.4 interceptions per game, 1.1 blocks. He's a good out and out defender. He's solid, but he is playing in a league which is beneath the Premier League, let's be real, in terms of quality and standard. There's definitely better leagues and better players that we could be looking at. I do think he's good. He's rumoured to be around 30 to 40 million pounds, which isn't bad, but I just feel as though there's better alternatives out there. Still a solid player, just not one I would personally go for. I would rather go for Hincape, who I think would be perfect. He's working under Xabi Alonso now, who's rumoured to be coming to us when Klopp leaves in 2026, maybe a little bit later. He beats Inacio stats wise for tackles, clearances, and aerial duels won. around the same price, around the same age. He's playing in a more competitive league in the Bundesliga, and with Jörg Schmadtke in charge of our transfer policy at the moment, it makes sense to go for someone from the Bundesliga. I just think he'd be the better alternative than Inacio. Not saying Inacio is bad, I just think Hincapié is a better defender and would suit us more. The German theme is there, and he'd be perfect for when Alonso comes in if he does. He'll hit the ground running, having a defender there that he's already worked with. Next up, Osimhen. Not convinced. I'm not saying bad only because he is so good. His stats speak for themselves. But again, it depends if Salah's still there. Because if Salah is still there, Osimhen would cost us £100 million to sit in the middle with Nunez and Gakpo already occupying that position. We still have Jota and Diaz, Salah on the right. So unless we're planning on moving some stuff around, I just don't see how this benefits us. And as I'm doing it, actually, I'm moving it more to bad. Not only that, but I just think that to spend that 100 million, we would have to, FSG have to sort of, you spend what you earn. We'd have to sell players to bring him in. Salah is the only player worth around that value. And if we sold him for 200 million, you're spending half your funds on an attacker when we already have a million other attackers at the club. I just don't think it's necessary to really go out and sign Osimhen. On top of that, you know, there's no set place for him. Would he be in the middle? Would he be out wide? Would he be a false nine? How would when I brought this up on a debate last night, no one could sort of. I posed the question of what system would you play? How would you operate with Osimhen in the team? And no one had an answer. And that tells you all you need to know about it. There's no set position for him. There's no set position for anyone else. We just have too many attackers as is, and I don't think selling Salah and bringing in Osimhen is necessarily the way to do it. Not a bad player at all. On his day, he's unplayable. I just don't think it's what we need. Next up, Thuram, and I'm putting him in perfect. Now, he's one of those players that has grown on me the more I've looked into him. In terms of his overall stats, I'm going to put them on the screen here just really quick. He's in the top percentile for so many things in attacking sense. I think he's in the top 97% for progressive carries forward. He's also got 1.47 interceptions per 90. He's very box to box, physically strong. He loves to take on players, and he's shot creating actions as well. I think he's in like the top percentile, like the top of it all, which is perfect. The only problem is we have so many players further forward now. Defensive midfield is where we lack stability, and he's not an out and out defender as before with Andre. But the reason I'm putting them both in perfect is because I think the ability they offer and the way we play, we're not looking for an out and out number six. We're not looking for someone who's going to break up play and that's their only role. We want someone who's going to win the ball back and get forward. I think McAllister, we tried that. It doesn't work because he's not physically imposing enough. He doesn't offer enough physicality to actually win the ball back. He can tackle, but that's about it. Thuram, I think he's 6'2". He's very fast. He's very young. And like I said, if he can take players on, perfect. He's going to be that pivot which gets the ball from point A to point B, or he's going to run with it and create plenty of space. And we have other midfielders who can drop back and fill the role, like Gravenberch or maybe McAllister, but he just needs to work on it a bit. For me, Thuram, he'd be ideal. Next up, Manu Kone. I'm going to put not convinced. Now, Kone for me is sort of the opposite of Thuram. He's a bit more of your out and out defensive minded midfielder. Stats wise, 2.95 tackles per 90, which trumps Thuram's stat wise, and I think Andre actually as well. The only problem I have with Kone is his injury record. He's 22 years old. He's had 9 injuries already in his career. He's been out for a while now. I think he suffered an injury on international duty. The price tag that would be getting commanded for him, I believe, is around 30 to 40 million, which is similar to Andre. Let's not get that wrong. But I just think Andre and Thuram can do more with the ball, and that's what Liverpool like. We like players that can pick up the ball and do something with it, not just break up the play. Even Fabinho was good at getting the ball forward. We saw the assist for Mane against Manchester United. He could score a goal. Kone could do that, but we just don't need to be risking our track record on more injury-prone players like Thiago, like Keita, like Aquilani in the past. We just don't need anyone else. And if Nabil Fekir, his transfer fell through because of knee issues, Manu Kone could just fall into the same bracket. Next, Nico Williams. Talked about him last night. I'm not convinced. I do think there's a talented player there. He is only 21, but 77 appearances, 6 goals for Athletic Bilbao, £50 million. It's cheap in the modern market, but again, it's just not what we need. If Salah goes, maybe 50 million for him then doesn't seem too bad for just a replacement winger. But, obviously he's not going to do what Salah does. We need to change our system. I've just not seen enough of him to really be utterly convinced. And I do think that there's better wingers and better alternatives out there. No offense to Nico Williams, he's just not who I'd go for personally. Next up, Alphonso Davies. Maybe I can see why, but as I say this though, I'm flickering between these two categories, and the main reason is yes, he's a very talented player. Yes, Robertson's not getting any younger. Yes, Simicast isn't the greatest backup in the world, but when we have someone as good at Robertson at the moment, and Simicast is a decent enough backup, I suppose, it doesn't make sense. And for £100 million as well, I'm leaning more to the not convinced. I do think he's a world class left back. I think he's one of the best left backs out there. He's a Champions League winner, a Bundesliga winner, one of the most attack minded fullbacks you'll see. But for £100 million, there's other areas in the pitch that need strengthening. And I know I fall in the minority of Liverpool fans nowadays when I say I love Andrew Robertson and what he does. And I know there's people out there who classify him as the weak link, so to speak. I just don't see it personally. And I just don't think 100 million for a left back when we have two solid enough left backs makes a lot of sense for me. Next up, Jared Braithwaite. Bad won't happen. I don't know where this rumour came from. This is just one that I saw and thought it'd be fun to put in. Everton player, doesn't make sense. We don't want defenders from Everton, let's be real. He's not bad. He's probably one of the better defenders, I'd say, but he's just not good enough for us. And I'll be honest, he's in here to ring the numbers up because I needed to reach 15 and I struggled. So there he is. Leroy Sane. Maybe I can see why. I do think that there is well, I don't think I know that we've all seen Sane. He tore up for Man City. He's doing it for Bayern. He's a great player. German national team, Champions League winner, Premier League winner, Bundesliga winner. Gets consistent stats every season. Now, if we were selling Salah and we could get Sane for a good price, I think his contract's nearly up soon, actually. So fine, that'd be great. But again, not getting any younger. I know it doesn't necessarily mean a great deal, but there's a difference between him and Salah. Salah doesn't rely on pace. Salah is physically strong. Salah's good technically. Sane, for me, has always felt like he's a quick player, and that's his main attribute. He can score goals, we know this. But as he gets older, the pace is going to diminish, and he's going to lose the main thing about him that's so good. Robben was able to adapt to it when that happens, and I just don't see Sane being able to do that. It's not something he's got in his locker for me personally. If we could get him for cheap and it was just for a season or two, no issue there. At the moment, though, maybe, as I say, maybe I can see why this would be a deal. I just, not massively convinced by what I've seen. Next up, Pedro Neto. This would be a good one. This is the one that whenever we get mentioned in streams, he's the one who everyone says Neto, sign him. He's cheap. Get him for this. And there is a few things to this. Like if Wolves get relegated, or Wolves are in a very poor position financially, which we know they are. They've sold Neves, they sold Nunez, they sold Jimenez. Maybe then there could be a cheaper deal struck. And Neto this season is looking good, not in terms of goals, but his team contribution. I think he's on 6 assists plus the 1 goal this season in the league, which is really, really good for especially a Wolves player who are in the situation where new manager, new team, lost their best players. And at times he's carried them. In the Liverpool game earlier this season, I said in my video back then, he looks brilliant. He's very quick, very tricky. He can beat the man. He waltzed through our defence at times. And there's definitely a fantastic player there. Neto, for me, would be an ideal right wing replacement if Salah was to go. He can play on the left as well. He looks great. 4.52 progressive passes per tackles, carries. Oh my God. 4.52 progressive carries per 90, which, great. That's really good. And that's what we need. We need people who are going to get the ball forward. The stats back him up. If we could get him for a cheaper price, perfect. The only thing that's keeping him out of perfect for me is, again, it's just not what we need at the moment. These are players that, if this was to January time, would Neto coming in benefit us? Maybe. We do have a lot of fixtures. We're still in all 4 competitions, but we already have an abundance of attacking players. If it was the summer and this was Salah is going, we know that, maybe perfect. But for now, we're going to put him in good. Next up, San Uda. How the bloody hell do you pronounce this? Uda Guga Boobadoo. Asan. Let's just call him Asan. Because I tried pronouncing this in stream recently and I just can't see it. I say perfect. Very young midfielder, attacking midfielder from Schalke. They're in League Two in Germany at the moment. I think he's got a goal already. He's featured in every game. He hasn't played a full 90 minutes yet, which, is concerning considering Schalke don't have a great team and he still can't get in. But he's very young. He'd be learning from some of the best midfielders in the league, and like Szoboszlai, McAllister, even Thiago, while he's here, could teach him a thing or two. If this is a deal that we could get done, and the rumours around 17 million, he could be the next batch of players to come through. So every team's got their core players, then you've got your backups, then you've got your reserves, and the reserves are ready for when the older players step up, leave, the next lot step up, and then you've got another gap behind. So we could join the groups of Kwanzaa, Billy Kumetio, Harvey Elliott, maybe, Bendo, Cade Gordon, all these young players. He could fit right in with that. And for a long-term investment who's going to appreciate and value in a similar vein to what I mentioned before, where is he? Andre. I see no issue with it. I think he'd be a good signing. And last up, Jared Bowen. Maybe I can see why, but I've actually not convinced. Look, Jared is a fantastic player for West Ham. But whenever I watch him, I'm not overly convinced that I see a lot about him that would make me think Liverpool starter. If Salah goes, and this has been a big theme throughout this video, we need someone who I don't know how to put this. Bowen just doesn't fit the play style. Bowen is a fairly quick player who can score a great goal. We've seen that. But I don't see him fitting into Liverpool's way. I see him very much as a mid-table player. Like you say, like your West Hams, maybe your Crystal Palace, something like that. Bowen, that step up might be a bit too big for him. And I might be being harsh, but he has just also signed a 7-year contract with West Ham. If it was a case of he was just signing a new deal to hold off until the summer to leave, it'd be a 2-3 year deal. A 7-year contract is basically saying, I am here for the long term. And he would command high prices. I've heard 60, 70, 80 million, which for Bowen is way too much. He's a consistent player per season, but I just don't see him as the player Liverpool need. Bowen likes to... He's a out wide player. We like players who are going to cut inside. And I say you can score a goal, which is great. I'm not overly convinced at the moment. And that's my list, guys. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Anyone you agree with, anyone you disagree with, general feedback on the video. It all helps massively. Please remember to like and subscribe. 100 by Christmas is the aim. We're on 48 at the moment, so let's see if we can get to at least 50 from this video. And I hope you guys have enjoyed and have a great day.